All right, everyone, welcome to 2026. This is our first coffee chat of the year, and I'm going to talk about ChatGPT. It's my new favorite toy. The caveat with any LLM or AI or anything you use, whether it's chat or something else, is that this is developing so rapidly that my remarks and everything I say could be different tomorrow, tonight, certainly within a few months. So generally, please take everything I say with a grain of salt. Also, I'm no expert. These are my thoughts only, and I highly recommend the Facebook group Genealogy and Artificial Intelligence. There's about 16,000 members there, and it's run by some of the big names in AI for genealogy. Okay, with that out of the way, I thought I would start off with saying what it is and what it is not. Okay, so I'm going to go vertically under what it is, then I'm going to cover what it isn't, and then speculation on what I think it might be in the future. It is ChatGPT and the free version, but especially the paid version. You're going to have to understand that most of my remarks, my thought, my process about this is really based on what chat can do from the paid version. Now, it's not that I think its processing and analyzing capability is less in the free version, but since it's a thing that you build, and the more that you build it, the better it gets. So in the free version, you're limited in saying what the ways it can analyze. So, okay, ChatGPT paid is a great analyzer of information, like an analyzer, a synthesizer, reams of documents, putting ideas together. In genealogy, we work with thousands of documents, and I rely on my own head, honestly, to make it for pattern recognition. ChatGPT is amazing at pattern recognition, so analysis. It's also a really good thinker. Like it processes words, finds different meanings and nuances. It's great for that. Chat is a good transcriber of really good documents. And so, in other words, if you have an original document, like a Word document, and it is designed something that I don't, if you've never worked with it before, it is designed to be obsequious, complimentary, flowery. Some people find it too much. It is designed to make you feel good. And so that's a caveat, right? But it is, if working with a computer that makes you feel better about yourself is something that you like, then that's what ChatGPT is. It is able to see records that you upload. Not so much in the free version where you're limited with the number of records that you can upload, but definitely in the paid version where you can upload as many records as it can handle. It is a great analyzer of complex projects, and that's what I'm doing, is I'm working on a complex project. Okay, so what it isn't. It's not a search engine. Please do not mistake it for Google or Bing or whatever your favorite browser is. It is a terrible search engine, in fact, and its summary of search engines is terrible. It runs across the internet. It's kind of like if you take all the nonsense on the internet and you get a machine that can't figure out what is true and from what is false, and you distill that into a response, that's what you're going to get using chat as a search engine. So don't do it. It's not for that. It is not a repository. It doesn't remember very well. It remembers pretty well across maybe 3 sessions. It doesn't remember at all in the free version. It remembers pretty well in the paid version. And that's something you kind of you get used to as you work with it. It's not perfect in its processing. So even if you upload a document with 1 page or 10 pages or 100 pages or 200 pages, actually, I think 150 pages is, no, actually, I've uploaded a 400-page document at this point. So it's not perfect in its processing. It scans through and it takes points, but it misses a lot. And that's something to be aware of. Using chat is like working with an imperfect assistant. And so you have to check its assumptions, its conclusions. It's like that. Um, it is not critical of your decisions. If you say, I want to do something and then describe something, anything, that is illogical or emotional, chat will be like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And it's not critical. It's not designed to be critical. Don't ask it to be critical. It is not able to see records that are behind a search engine or paywalls. Nothing on Internet Archive, nothing at Library and Archives Canada. If it's not on a web page that chat can see, chat can't see it. So don't expect it to be able to comb through books that are on the Internet Archive, for example. And I've touched on this. It's not able to remember everything that you've done. Memory, short-term memory. People actually are now finding they develop quasi relationships or full relationships with chatbots and are devastated when the memory just fills up and it just gets wiped. It happens. So again, it's not a repository, it's not a search engine. It is a tool. It's a really good chatbot. That's why it's called chat. Okay, speculating. At some future point, it could be better at non-European languages. By European languages, I mean English, French, Spanish, German, the Latin, the records that depend on the alphabet. It wasn't trained largely on English records, non-English records, and especially didn't have access to a lot of non-European languages. So name anything: Chinese, Japanese, Cyrillic, um, chat, AI, LLMs. They're not trained on them. They're not readily accessible. They could be in the future, and because of that, that non-training on non-Euro languages, it does not transcribe uncommon names well. It makes assumptions. There's ways to get over that, but don't assume that it translates your Chinese person's name correctly, because it won't. It does not. It might at some point be able to transcribe imperfect documents. We've all seen them, right? Handwriting that we can't read, 17th century records, fuzzy 17th century records, imperfectly OCR'd records, all that stuff. If you can't read it and you can't OCR it, in other words, optical character recognition, run it and see like a really good output of the OCR, chat's not going to be able to do that either. Like it does an imperfect job of this. So it's getting better. Maybe next week it'll be amazing, but right now it could at some point be better. So with that in mind, my do's and don'ts would be we're going to go down the do column first. Train chat to work how you want to work. Here, it's incredible. And that's where I will demo what I've done. Do use chat initially when you're first working with it to analyze records that you are a subject matter expert on, or at least you really thoroughly understand. It's kind of like working with a dog. The dog has a certain incredible capability. Certainly it can run faster than you can, but you don't know what it can't do. And you don't know, moving back over to computers, because that metaphor just ran out. You don't know what it can't do. You don't know where its blind spots are, and it's not going to readily admit them. So first, when you're first getting used to it, only ask questions on areas that you understand. I know we have an Italian Canadian genealogy expert in the room, so start there. Start with the stuff that you know. Start with records that you understand. Start with history that you know. Verify that what chat is giving you is the right answer, is something that passes the smell test before you move on to other things. The next thing is questions. Everything that you ask chat is called a prompt. And initially, for the first year and a half or so, I was just asking like paragraph style questions. I would say things like, you are a professional genealogist. You specialize in Western Canada and Chinese Canadian records. You are looking into the history of, and I would describe the problem and I would give it all the details. And I would say, search the internet or don't search the internet, use reputable websites, yada, yada. and it would give me pretty good answers, like pretty good. And I would refine it and I would follow up and I would say, talk more about this, or no, that isn't right. Like find a different site about that, or I disagree, try that again. The thing with free is that you're going to run out of questions or the ability to ask more questions in about 5 to 10 questions, depending on how complicated your questions are. And for a year and a half, that's all I needed, really. I mean, it was just, I would just reopen the chat when my time, you know, I got more time. It would say, you've run out of access to the best model, come back at like 3 p.m. And, maybe I'd do that. Is that was sufficient for my needs. And I do recommend that people who are first testing models like chat, just to test the free version and see if it works for you. See if it works for your needs. You don't have to get into super complicated analytical frameworks like what I'm building. It's but do test it. Okay. So then your questions. So that's big context to keep prompts in a separate place. Prompts your questions as you start to design your questions. Your first question, your second question, your third question. It's a little bit like coding. And don't be scared if you've never coded. I'm not a coder. But what I mean by that is your best effects will be if you can say, here's what I want to do. Is that okay? Do you understand? And it says yes. And then you say, okay, here's the document I want you to analyze using these parameters. Proceed. And so this is a multi-level question prompt, which gets better answers, better analysis, but is really only available in the paid version. Right. So those questions, those series of questions, they get more and more complicated as you get better at asking questions because you understand the answers that come from, where it derails, where it messes up. So then you design multi-level prompts. So I'm going to give you a basic example in citations. Initially, I said, use Chicago manual style for citations. And it did, sort of. And I saw what it was missing in the citation. And so then my next prompt was, okay, use this link, Chicago manual style, and it would put it together. And then I would keep evolving my citation question prompts until I got a prompt or a question structure that made sense. And then I said, okay, now remember this in future. That's a different thing. Chat can remember. That's a whole nother issue. And I won't be able to cover that because it's complicated. Keep all your results, your questions, your multi-level prompts, your stuff in a separate application. This is something I did not understand until I was 10 days into building my framework. And chat said to me, okay, upload your latest version and I'll look at it. And I was like, what do you mean upload my latest version? I thought, and that was when I realized, oh, I was supposed to be copy pasting this into a document. Oh, and so then I had to go back and do all that work that I wasn't doing because chat doesn't remember stuff. Okay, it analyzes stuff really well, but doesn't remember stuff really well. And so do develop a working process. Everything I'm describing, it sounds sophisticated and complicated, but it's not. It's just you learning to work with a really good tool, but you need to know what it doesn't do, what it assumes, where its blind spots are. And experiment. Experiment. If you haven't done this yet, please sign up for the free one and just try it. Ask questions. Now, don't assume chat is as smart as you because it's not. I remember conversations I'd had with people 3 years ago. Chat doesn't. I remember patterns and recognitions and things that chat said to me a week ago. Chat doesn't. It's that kind of stuff, right? Expecting chat to act like a human being with that sort of response mechanism. It sounds super smart when you're working with it, and the analysis is very good, but it doesn't, it's not iterative unless you make it iterative. So you can't assume it knows. It's kind of like Groundhog Day in some respects. Don't assume chat can analyze documents that you can't read, as I mentioned before. Don't assume chat can read all your Chinese names. Story. So I uploaded a military record for my uncle, and I noticed in the result that chat said I gave his name. His name was wrong. And I said, no, run that again. The name is wrong. And I didn't tell chat what the name was. And the second try, it was closer, but it was still wrong. And I was like, huh, that's really interesting. What are you actually doing with this record? So then I said, I've given you two tries. You haven't gotten the name wrong. Why is that? And it gave me a list of reasons. Like it's not OCR'd well, it's not clear, it's not all those things. And I said, no, that's not true. It is clear. It's a PDF document. It's listed at least 6 places very clearly marked. Why aren't you giving me the right name? And then the third try, it admitted, oh, actually, I'm trained on Caucasian names. The name, my uncle's name is Dake, 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 not Dick. And the first one was Jack Yip. And so I said, huh, okay, this is an issue. We need to make sure that this is never going to happen. I'm a genealogist after all, and names are important. So here's the prompt. From now on, I need you to remember, never assume with the names. Ask me questions if you can't figure out what the name is. If you are assuming what the name is. Anyway, so I designed this prompt about names, which you're going to have to do too. You're going to have to train chat not to assume anything about names, to actually read the name and the aliases. And like it does understand, like it's trained on context. It'll tell you everything it knows. But this is a big stumbling block, and it's something, when I ran across it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense. But what's interesting about that whole exchange is that initially chat didn't admit that it wasn't trained on non-Caucasian names, right? But it does. You can get it to finally say, that there's a possibility. Anyway, um, don't rely on chat to remember your conversations, as I mentioned before. Do not wait. Don't wait. Like the one thing I want to impress upon you in January 2026 is this is like a baby T-Rex. And this will, chat and AI and LLMs are taking over everywhere. Um, the longer we wait to get into it, the longer we wait to understand it, the harder it will be to understand. And so it's kind of almost adorable the way it works right now. But later on, when it's like super impressive, it'll be harder for you to understand how to do these things, right? How to understand it, how to set it up, how to pinpoint its inaccuracies, this kind of stuff. And don't assume chat will keep your work private. In fact, I have this whole prompt question when I am working with private data where I want to analyze a big report or a set of reports spanning years. And I said to chat, okay, I have a working report. I want to ensure that we work by the ethics that my professional ethics. How do I make sure that this information remains private? Chat goes, oh, okay, in that case, we want to do this, 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 and this. And I did all those things so that anonymize the data for one thing, to make sure that your work stays private, right? So privacy. So do's and don'ts, that's a lot. And I've got 2 more slides. First of all, I signed up for ChatGPT about mid-2024. I began asking increasingly complex questions, starting with, you're a genealogist with expertise in Western Canadian and Chinese Canadian history, and go on from there. I tested and checked the results, and I always ask for links and support. I instructed chat only to look at reputable sites such as museums, archives, that kind of thing, Wikipedia. But even then, Wikipedia, anybody can add to Wikipedia. I asked it by reputable, I define no social media because people could be reputable and on social media, but you can't assume that. I signed up for Plus 3rd December 2025, and it's a month later, and I have made incredible progress, honestly. And I've also designed a working agreement, privacy parameters, ethics rules, and searching the internet. Like this has taken hours. Very, very worthwhile. So why should you use to learn AI? It's media literacy in a nutshell. You need to learn AI so that you understand when it's being badly used. It's going to be badly used everywhere. Professors have been managing bad AI usage for at least a year because students use it to write their reports. and their essays and their exams and answer their math questions. So bad AI usage, AI being used by your coworkers, right? Unethical AI and social media and news broadcasts. News broadcasters are not immune to this. They are absolutely firing journalists and replacing them with AI. So rather than work in a world where we don't trust anything we're told, we need to learn media literacy to recognize when a thing can be true. Video, right? Case in point. Do we trust everything that's video on the internet? No. In fact, all those cute animal videos that are appearing from, say, 3 months ago to now, the ones that you've never seen before, like, I don't know, people feeding bears by hand, that stuff is AI, okay? That's not true. Uh, so AI is here now. It is. I mean, the T-Rex has come, and we can decry it. We can complain about it. We can be fearful of it. Um, but it's here, and I think we accept that that's happened, and therefore, what now? So I think our older users will be more less inclined to use AI, but you absolutely better bet that your teenagers, your 20-year-olds are using it full time right now for everything. That's Google. And so its acceptance will be rapid across the public sphere. People will come to ask if you're still working, why you're not using it, because they'll start to question why they should have to pay for your admin when AI can do that job. Like it's already happening in my circles of entrepreneurs. Um, Unlike other tools, people will begin to question you, assuming that you're already using it. So I've begun changing my processes for my blogs and my work and the things that I output, where I make a clear statement of what I do use AI in and what I haven't used AI in. In my reports, for example, in December, I created a report and there was a whole chapter on Northern Irish history. Rather than become a Northern Irish history expert, which I am not and I don't want to spend any time doing, I asked Chat to give me a summary of, the history pertaining to my people. And in my report, I clearly labeled that as I used AI to create this chapter. Here are the links. Here are the books recommended. I checked every book. I checked every link. I checked every recommendation. Some were wrong because they didn't exist. But that's the thing, right? It's a frank statement of your AI usage will build trust now. If you just assume that if you don't say that you're not using AI, people will assume you're not, and it'll be the other way, especially for writers. Us writers and creatives and artists and people will assume that you're using AI because not everyone can write or create or do that thing, and they'll just assume that you're using this tool. So right away, like in my blogs, I say, I wrote every word of this by hand. This is my own work, and I will tell you when I'm using AI. And then finally, and for me, the most impressive thing, it is an impressive tool. It is a crazy impressive tool. It rewards its usage. Okay, so this is that's half our coffee chats, 26 minutes. I'm now going to end the recorded part of this session, and I now invite you to turn on your cameras and stuff. Actually, I will stop recording.